It was a dark and stormy night when Mara Finch crawled out of her own grave and did not remember how she died or where she was or who she was, has no recollection of what happened. The book we're going to talk about today is The Burial Tide by Neil Sharpson. It is a island off the coast of Ireland that is full of strange lore and happenings. There are creatures that lurk in the trees that are grotesque and weird, and then there are teeth that litter the roads, and there's all kinds of effed up stuff going on in this island, and there's a bunch of like secrets and whatnot. And this might be one of my favorite like island horror books that I've read in recent times. Like I did just read Grace by A.M. Shine, and I liked that one also a lot, but I think I like this one a little bit better. It's a different animal, still lore and Irish and weird. Grace is also a great read if you're looking for another island horror. I was also thinking about possibly making a video about my favorite island horror. So let me know if you'd be interested in that. We may do a video. I just like the whole isolation part of it, and it's an interesting setting to have a story. So the burial tide, you have this woman who crawls out of her grave and she stumbles on down the road. She's covered in mud and she's doesn't know who she is or what happened, and she's starving, like ravenously starving. She sees a cabin or a little house with a light on, and she goes down the road and she breaks in and just starts eating everything in this person's refrigerator. And so the guy who lives there, his name is Declan. He's an artist, poet slash writer and whatnot, and he's there on like an artist residency, and his grandmother, I believe, came from that island. He hears all this noise in the middle of the night, and he comes downstairs and he finds Mara. And he had seen, I think it was either earlier that day or before, he had seen the 4 freshly dug graves, and he had seen her name, Mara Dunn. Notice I said Mara Fitch before. Okay, anyways, this will come to play in the story. Island secrets and whatnot. He goes to confront her and she like grabs a knife. She says something and he's like, yeah, but you're dead. Because he had seen her grave, and he's like, what the F? You're supposed to be dead. Eventually she calms down and they talk, and he's like, I'm gonna call the doctor. And he had also been told too that there was like some sort of outbreak on the island, like the Marburg virus, which is somehow somewhat like Ebola or something like that. Supplies have been dropped off at his place, and this, that, and the other. You get some other things, like there's these 2 brothers, this Malachi and Khan. It had been pouring rain. They were playing poker or whatever. They were playing some sort of card game. And then the rain abruptly stopped. And for some reason, they knew why the rain was stopping. Is that weird? Yeah, probably. So they go outside and then they look up to where the graveyard is. And they actually had watched her come out of her grave. And one of them's like, it's too early. And then you're like, what? So it's setting you up to be like, what do you mean? What does all this mean? This doctor comes, and then it seems like she's just seeding Mara a story. She's like, I'm going to show you names. I'm going to show you this, and you pick which one you think is who you were, and this, that, and the other. And she's like, oh, yep, that's correct. Yep. Deidre, that was your mother. Yes. Mara's like, I feel like this woman is lying to me. She doesn't know, though, because she has no memory of anything. And eventually the doctor's like, yeah, you're going to come stay with me. And the doctor came over and she's wearing all like hazard gear and whatnot. And then she takes Mara to go stay with her to get better. Eventually finds out that she had a partner. Also, the man whose house she broke into was like, I think he didn't want to say that he thought her husband or partner was dead because he didn't know, and he didn't want to freak her out. She was already traumatized, obviously, from what had happened. And so eventually this guy, Kian, comes into I'm sorry if I pronounce some of these names wrong because they're Irish and I don't exactly know how to say them. It's Cian, but what I looked up said like Keen or Kian. And then apparently this guy was her partner, very handsome and whatnot. And he had been on the mainland in the island because he had something attacked him. When she finally talks to him, Mara, because the doctor's like, yeah, this is your partner. You guys live together. She talks to him and she has no recollection, no feelings of anything whatsoever. And eventually when they do go to his house, it's like this glass, square, modernist looking house. There's no photos in the house anywhere. Everything feels very sterile and like doesn't feel lived in. She doesn't feel like anything is hers. And she's the whole time is like, none of this feels right. And so eventually she starts to like dig and like Declan does not seem like he's in it like the rest of the town, but the rest of the town, everybody seems like they got stuff they're not telling her. And so there's also this woman who runs the pub, or is like the local chieftain, and her name is, I think it's Grania is how you say it. Could be wrong, like I said. And she speaks in riddles. Like, she seems to hint at things, and she seems like she's nice, but she's not. She is a two-faced beep. Mara, like, starts to, like, try to get centered and find her place here on this island and in town. She goes into town and visits the local pub and talks to Grania, and then she has this dream of this cottage that she feels like in the dream it was home, and she's like, I feel like I lived here. And then she also experiences other weird stuff, like when she's walking around on the island. One time she's walking by and there's this little old lady that's like sitting on a wall, and I still haven't figured out if the little old lady was like fae or a ghost or what they were, but she kind of clues her in that everyone on the island has like big shotguns and rifles, because also when she was staying with the doctor, there was one night that the sheep were all attacked by like some creature. Something's been killing the sheep. Also, something's out there killing people. The townsfolk and villagers seem to know what it is. Stuff is very strange. Mara ends up seeing this photograph. I think it was taken in like the 20s, 1920s. It seems in the photo that she was in it married to this other guy who was from the island, but that's impossible, right? Maybe it must be a relative of some sort. We don't know. Apparently on the island too, there are other like areas that aren't like this weird center of secretive villagers. So there's one other bar on the island where this other girl that she meets works. She contacts Declan again because he seems more helpful and more believing of like what's going on with her. And eventually she finds out that he had seen her with her dude at this other bar. He's like, you guys always seem kind of scared about what was going on and whatnot. And then eventually he like meets the dude that is her partner, and he's like, that was not the man that you were with. And so stuff gets weirder from there, and there's all this like crazy lore about what's happening on the island, and there's these big creepy monsters, people are dying, stuff's all effed up. And who is Mara Finch? Or is it Mara Dunn? This is such a great horror. It's a folk horror. It's an island isolation horror. It's gripping. It has a nice steady pace. I really liked the characters. I really hated some of the characters. I thought what happened in the end was fantastic. It's such a beautifully well done, eerie and weird and dark and disturbing island horror. This is my first time reading this author. I definitely want to read more by them. I am a fan of underwater horror, but this is not underwater, but it's water themed, and I also like that too. Weird things afoot on this island. What happens? Does Mara find out who she is? Maybe. I mean, she needs to find out who she is if you want to have an ending that's fitting of this, right? So she probably finds out. You're gonna have to read it to find out, and I would highly recommend it. It's fantastic. Also, if you enjoyed hanging out today, hit that subscribe button, come back, see me again, and we'll talk about more bookish things and weird stuff.